Shall I start? Namaste and greetings. I, Zubia Moin, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav एवं नीति अनुसंधान संस्थान नई दिल्ली extend my warmest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. Today, we are gathered for a panel discussion on the topic domestic violence and abuse, challenges and responses. This deliberation is a part of the State of Gender Equality #Gender Gap series organized by the IMPRI Gender Impact Studies Center. As the chair for the session, we have Professor Vibhuti Patel, visiting distinguished professor at IMPRI. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
With permission of the chair, I would like to introduce the gathering.
Yeah, please introduce the panelists. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. We are elated to welcome the esteemed panelists for today's panel discussion on the very important topic. Advocate Gayatri Sharma, lawyer and program director, Women Power Connect, New Delhi. We welcome you, ma'am. Professor Vijaylakshmi Brara, Department of Sociology, Royal Global University, Guwahati. We welcome you, ma'am. We also welcome Dr. Tara Nair, Director, Research and Knowledge, Center for Migration and Labor Solutions, Aajeevika Bureau. Advocate Celin Thomas, Advocate Celin Thomas and Associates, Bengaluru. Dr. Kirti Bolineni, President, Vasavya Mahila Mandali, Vijayawada. And finally, Anchita Ghatak, co-founder Parichiti, Making Women Visible, Kolkata. We welcome you all. Now, I would like to invite our chair, Professor Vibhuti Patel, ma'am, to initiate the deliberation with her opening remarks and to proceed further with the discussion. We look forward to learning from the esteemed gathering. Thank you.
Thank you, Zubia. And first of all, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Arjun Kumar and Zubia for galvanizing all of us into action about this very important subject of domestic violence and abuse, challenges and responses. And I greet the panelists, Advocate Gayatri Sharma, Professor Vijaylakshmi Brara, Dr. Tara Nair, Advocate Celin Thomas, Dr. Kirti Bolineni, and Anchita Ghatak. And dear participants, domestic violence is a violation of women's rights to physical integrity, to liberty, and all too often to her right to life itself. When states and societies fail to take basic steps needed to protect women from domestic violence or allow these crimes to be committed with impunity, states are failing in their obligation to protect women from this torture. And we have seen it on a large scale. Domestic violence happened during these 2 years of pandemic. What are the signs of domestic violence? Destructive criticism and verbal abuse, shouting, mocking, accusing, name-calling, verbally threatening, pressure tactics, sulking, threatening to withhold money, disconnect the telephone, take the car away, commit suicide, take children away, report you to welfare agencies unless you comply with his demands regarding bringing up the children, lying to friends, family, and lying to your family's members, telling you that you have no choice in any decision, or being disrespectful, persistently putting you down in front of other people, not listening or responding to when you talk, interrupting your telephone calls, taking money from your purse without asking, refusing to help with child care or housework, breaking trust, continuously lying to you, withholding information from you, being jealous, gaslighting, having other relationships, breaking promises, and breaking shared agreements, isolating you. Social isolation was a major reason why domestic violence took place in such a great extent, because the victim was in the proximity of the tormentor, because during the lockdown, there was no other recourse which the victim would take, or where nobody would even intervene. Harassment following you, checking up on you, opening your mail, repeatedly checking to see who was there talking to you on phone, or embarrassing you in public, and the threats, making angry gestures, using physical size to intimidate, shouting you down, destroying your possessions, breaking things, punching walls, wielding a knife or a gun, and threatening to kill or harm you or children. And also sexual violence, using force, threat, intimidation to make you perform sexual acts, having sex with you when you don't want to have sex, or any degrading demands or degrading treatment based on sexual orientation. And also physical violence, such as punching, slapping, hitting, beating, biting, kicking, pulling your hair, pushing, shoving, burning, and strangling, and the denial, saying the abuse did not happen whenever the police or the relatives or neighbors they interrogate, saying you caused the abusive behavior, being publicly gentle and patient and crying and begging for forgiveness and saying it will never happen again, but still it happens. So in response to this kind of reports which were made to the newly formed women's organizations, the domestic violence became a very important public concern for the women's movement. And in 1983, domestic violence was recognized as a specific criminal offense by introduction of Section 498A into the Indian Penal Code. And this section deals with cruelty by husband or his family towards a married woman. And the 4 types of cruelty were included: conduct that is likely to drive a woman to suicide, conduct which is likely to cause grave injury to the life and limb and health of women, and harassment with the purpose of forcing the woman and her relatives to give some property, or harassment because the woman or her relatives are unable to yield to the demands for money or not, or some part of the property. So domestic violence, as NFHS rounds on NFHS 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which was conducted during the pandemic, they say that it is a common form of violence, and it is called intimate partner abuse, battering, wife beating, defined as the ongoing experience of physical, emotional, financial, and sexual abuse faced by women within the household. It is characterized by long-term pattern of abusive behavior and control. The abusers could be a woman's husband or other members of the natural or marital family. Domestic violence is not specific to any culture or community. It cuts across boundaries of class, caste, religion, race, ethnicity, and nation. It is rooted in a social, economic, political, and cultural structures that place women in unequal and vulnerable position. As this violence takes place within the home, quote unquote, home, private domain, it is considered a personal and private matter, not a serious public health issue. But because now we see that both it is a very important public health concern, so that we have most of the one-stop crisis centers which have come up in last 22 years, they are located in the casualty ward of the hospital, because the physical injury that a victim or a survivor of violence faces. While uniform national prevalence rate for domestic violence do not exist, we see that there is a variation in the different states, and recently also the NFHS 5 has shown that nearly 1/3 of the women have reported that they have faced either verbal or psychological or emotional or physical or economic or sexual violence in the domestic arena. And that's why it has become a very important concern for the human rights movement, women's rights movement, feminist movement. And even recently we concluded 15 days of activism against violence against women. So it is in this context that today we have organized this panel discussion, and we have luminaries and experienced practitioners as well as public intellectuals who have worked on this area in terms of research, documentation, training, and also actually taking up the cases. So my first question is to Professor Vijaylakshmi Brara, a sociologist, that as a sociologist, what do you have to say when it comes to increase in domestic violence in the current context?
Good evening, everybody. This is a very, very pertinent. In fact, it is so sad that we have this pandemic. In the pandemic, we had this what UN described as the shadow pandemic, where it described how during the pandemic the domestic violence increased so many folds because men were all the time 24/7 in the household. So they had to then beat their wives. What else they could do? They had no other work to do, as if. So yeah, it's a very pertinent question that it has increased over a period of time. Number one issue is, sociologically speaking, that it has domestic violence is perpetuated because it has sanctity from the society. And sanctity is from the society is because we have a very strong power equation. We have very strong power, dynamics whereby, patriarchy subsumes that, women have to be subservient. In fact, many sociologists, I would say, have actually, and many scientists have gone on and on to prove that women have smaller brains. They are not capable of handling politics. They are not capable of taking rational decisions. They are emotional. So they have to be handled by the men. So number one is the sanctity part of it, and the fact that it is acceptable for the women, to be beaten up by their husbands. They're often saying, especially I'm basically actually from Punjab. So, there's a basically saying that if the husband will not beat us, will it really beat the neighbor? So as if it is a woman's, kind of a kind of thing that that ownership, and the fact that it's a welcome thing that, that at least my husband treats me close enough to beat me up. So imagine with that kind of scenario, things are actually quite bad. And unfortunately, you told me to talk about Northeast. There also the situation is going from bad to worse, even though we say that women's status is very high. And in fact, a lot of water has flown since that myth has been broken by me and many other sociologists into understanding the fact that, we have only looked at the outside world of, Northeast women. We have not peeped inside the domestic front. So that has coming up now. That is coming up now. Manipur particularly, we have very high rise of women-headed households, and divorce rate has risen. And the prime reason for this is polygamy. And polygamy, I think, when we talk about that, domestic violence, we often talk only, primarily about physical abuse. But we should also understand that the humiliation, of your husband, making love to another woman in the next bed, and, bringing her in home, and with it's a very, very, I mean, one can understand it's a very, very humiliating, mentally distressing, experience. So that is not only in Manipur. In fact, in Arunachal Pradesh, the women's movement are, their prime agenda is to, they're fighting against polygamy and child marriage in Arunachal Pradesh. And in Mizoram also, we have very high indices of women-headed households, primarily because of this whole drunkardness and drug addiction of the men. So, this whole leaving the women, it's like leaving a hot potato from the hand, and, it's as simple as that. So this is a very, very prime concern. Another concern is the poverty, which is being faced by women because of all these situations. So anyway, as the discussion goes on, I'll keep adding to it. But one thing I would like this august audience to understand, and my plea is that, we have to move from the victim-oriented structures to survivor-oriented structures, because victim immediately, victim, it's a powerlessness. The word implies powerlessness, while survivor implies somebody who has, made it through, and powerful enough, thing like that. And also, we have to move from this whole justice and crime. I know we have a lot of lawyers in the panel, but we have to move from the law and order prism to the health issue of the person. We just don't take it in the court, and then what is happening to her body, what is happening to her mental stress, so I would say that, that health issues also have to become one of the prime agendas in our discussion today. So I will proceed later on as and when, so let others contribute. Thank you. I can't hear you.
Yeah. So thank you, Dr. Vijaylakshmi. You brought up 4 very important points. One is about the violation of dignity and also the mental agony that survivor of domestic violence faces. The issues specific to Northeast in terms of like in Manipur or Arunachal Pradesh or Meghalaya, where you talk about the polygamy and also child marriages, which also make women powerless. Drug and alcohol is a very important concern, and poverty also. And most important contribution that you made, that from victim-oriented framework, we need to have a paradigm shift, and we focus on the survivor and how we empower women. And it is not a law and order issue; it is a very important public health issue with a focus on mental and physical well-being of a person, not only health but also well-being of a person. Now, I would like to ask our next panelist, Dr. Preeti, Dr. Kirti, that you have formed a very robust organization, and it's a very important work that your organization is doing in Vijayawada, Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh was the first state to come up with a gender responsive budgeting for dealing with the domestic violence, and it has a very important record of community-based support structures. So can you just tell us your personal journey as well as the important landmarks in your whole journey of campaign against domestic violence? Over to Dr. Kirti.
Thank you so much for making all of us to be part of it and taking it a very important subject, which is in the gray area, which I can tell it. Me, when I coming from a socially and politically affluent family, but still I face domestic violence. So domestic violence, when we see, it's only with the poor, is only a myth. So the socially and politically affluent families and educated and everything also, we are facing violence, because I became a widow at the age of 30 and lost my daughter, and I faced violence as a widow, as a young widow. And again in my second marriage, for 7 years, I faced severe domestic violence. It is physical, emotional, financial, and sexual, whatnot. And I can say very clearly, it's an invisible scars. Can you show it? No, we can't show it, some of the things. And also, as a person, we do have some of the inhibitions and to tell everything to the public or even to our own siblings also. And we are living in a patriarchal society. We don't even talk some of the things with our life partners also. So in that journey, what I have seen, and I dedicated my life mission, is dignity and respect for the woman. So even the educated women are also unable to come up and give a complaint. In a recent study, I have seen that 90% of the women facing domestic violence are not giving a complaint to the mechanisms which we have, like a police or DV cells like that. But they tell to their family members, and the family members tell, you get adjusted. And same again, they come back, and if they will be vicious cycle of violence is going on. And the children are also living in the abusive relations in the exposed environment. So what we have taken up an innovative initiative in Vijayawada with the city police is collaborated, and the joint initiative is Vasaviya Mahila Mandali and 21 police stations in Vijayawada police launched an initiative in Jan 2017. So at each police station, there is a person who received the, now they told victim to be converted into a survivor. There I have some more thoughts also. So now at this moment I call victim. When they enter into the police station, 2 women constables receive them and trained the 3,700 police cops in Vijayawada from the constable level to the DJ commissioner of police level on gender sensitization and how empathetic they should be when a victim comes to the police station. And then there is a community-based groups are developed and they conduct the deliberations at the police station with the police. So that is giving them a kind of a confidence that they can step into the police station, because normally in the societies there is no trust from the police. That's why they don't come. So that's why to give a kind of a coordinative mechanism in the place of the community response and engagement is one of the response which we can give it. Not only the punitive aspect or not only the police, the institutional mechanism that has given a fantastic response, and the women started going to police stations and accompanying the victims and taking to them and going to the schools and giving a preventive education. And at the same time, at public places also, there's a lot of eve teasers in Vijayawada. Within a span of about 34 months, counseled, and they came to police after the catch hold of them. About 7,000 eve teasers, those who are perpetrators, were counseled, and there is no repeat offender. So, in this example, what we can tell is the success is we have to work for the social empowerment of the victim to turn into a survivor and to handle her case confidently and to be a peer for the others. And same time, we have to work with the survivor, service provider with empathy and gender sensitization. And also we have to give counseling and reformation among the perpetrators. So this is what a fantastic study which we have done it and actionable. And a study is also undertaken by University of Edinburgh, and it's on a website which you all can see. Maybe in the next, when I get time, I'll share about our experiences and the pan-India study which we did on maintenance among women in marital discard.
Thank you, Dr. Kirti, for bringing out your personal testimony and your heroic battle against domestic violence in your personal life, and providing support to other women survivors in a mission mode. And your Vasavya Mahila Mandli, which also has got several awards. I know this week also you got an award, and it's a very extremely inspiring work that your organization has done. Now I would like to ask Dr. Gayatri, Advocate Gayatri Sharma, that Women Power Connect, as a member, director of Women Power Connect, and also as a legal practitioner. Earlier you were with Lawyers Collective also. You have done a lot of work in terms of training and in terms of coming up with the toolkits, and also various workshops that you have organized on domestic violence. So can you share some of the experiences, that how do we change the mindset of people? Are there any inspiring stories that you can share with us?
So, first of all, thank you for inviting me. And to begin with, the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, a lot of its success depends on how well the stakeholders are performing. And I am based in Delhi. Women Power Connect, the office is also based in Delhi. And Delhi should, as the capital, have some of the best infrastructure, and the stakeholders should be ideally better informed and working as per the law. To some extent, yes, in Delhi, the names of the POs, the names of the service providers, their phone numbers, all of that is available, which is still not there for all the states. However, when we did our workshops and our in-depth study on the quality of services available in Delhi, there were innumerable gaps. Just to name a few, the protection officers, the threat that they feel in dealing with cases unless they have police support, and police support is not always there. Legal aid lawyers, they are always looking to make money from the victim, and it's very hard how to deal with this, because there is a market also at work. And so the legal aid lawyers don't want the PO interfering in the case. Shelter homes, I think that is across the country, the shortage of shelter homes. And this became clear during the COVID-19 pandemic until the not the DCW, Mrs. Rashmi Singh from the Ministry of Women and Child said that it's no woman can be turned away from a shelter home during the pandemic. She had passed this notification. After COVID-19, we did do one workshop on, and I wanted to just share a success story with college students on domestic violence that they experienced during the pandemic. And college students are largely unmarried. So we are talking about 18 to 19 to 20-year-olds. And the sort of cases we were expecting were that of gender-based discrimination, men are not helping with the housework, and women being overburdened. And of course, that was there. But the number of cases of incest that came out and severe forms of violence during the pandemic, on one hand, it was eye-opening. On the other hand, I think the courage that the younger generation has now in speaking up about issues that earlier were repressed and not spoken about is no longer there. They don't hesitate to say that this is what happened and so and so. I think it's very commendable that at least the slight change is happening with the younger generation, at least in this one study that we did in one college in Delhi University.
Yeah, I think it also reminds me of an incident in Kolkata, in West Bengal, where students were asked by a teacher to write about my mother. And one student wrote an essay saying that my mother is very hardworking and she does so much of work, but every day she gets beaten. My heart breaks when I see my mother screaming and crying. And the teacher took that essay to the principal, and both teacher and principal, they went to police station with the girl and the DV Act. They used the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act, and the action was taken. That means this training program and the workshops that we conduct, I think it has created a new kind of consciousness. I think even in PT also, we should discuss this issue. We are discussing POCSO, we have started discussing, but I think protection of this POWDA Act also must be discussed. So I think it's very encouraging to discuss and see it as a social problem and take it to the students and future generation also, so that they also are away from this kind of a mindset, no, that you can sort anything like your wife is your private property, or women, even the question of incest, about which people were hardly talking. In my generation, all of us grew up with seeing and hearing horror stories in private domain, but talking about it in public so that action can be taken, I think is very important. And that's why I think many cases of POCSO are also reported, because the young girls, even school girls, are reporting. So thank you, Dr. Gayatri. Now I would like to ask Madam Anchita Katak, what has been your experience, your organization's experience? Hello? Are you there?
Hello. Yes.
Anchita ji? Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
See, from Porichiti, we work with women domestic workers. And for a long time, we used to work, on a case-by-case basis as women reported cases of domestic violence. And now, of course, we have a program to address domestic violence. And like many of the panelists here have said that, our focus is specifically working with women domestic workers, but for our domestic violence work, we get, we get complaints, or we are contacted by people, by women across classes. One of the things I would like to say, because we are talking of PWDVA, and a very important contribution that PWDVA has made to the discussion around domestic violence is they have also talked about domestic violence in relationships outside marriage. And I think this point came to us all very strongly when, when we read about the Shraddha Walkar murder, because I think that was a horrific, absolutely horrific incident that has happened, and one we have heard about, and we have all been shocked by the level of brutality. But this kind of abuse and violence occurs in relationships between men and women, and they need not necessarily be married, and this is something that is very important, and we really need to look at this, because of course we also know, ever since the women's movements have been working on issues of domestic violence, that a lot of times women think that they are married to a man, but actually they are not. And so these issues are all there, and Gayatri ji was just talking about the younger generation changing. It's, I think, in issues of domestic violence, for many of us, the experience is that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Because young women, they are challenging many social norms, but again, they find themselves caught in situations that they find very difficult to get out of. I think the Shraddha Walkar murder in that sense is illustrative of many things that women experience. One is this acceptance of violence, and the other is when you don't have parental support, you become completely helpless. And parental support is sort of shorthand for social support, but it is important to have that. And one of the things that we are trying to do in our work now is in the communities where we work in, urban communities, urban slums, urban settlements in and around Kolkata. We are actually talking about these issues within the community, and really trying to explore them with naturally with the women, but also with men, because we feel it's important for men to tackle this issue and think about why they are violent and why is violence against women or domestic violence so normalized. And also, as you were saying earlier, that, you were talking about POXO, but this whole business of normalizing domestic violence, it's like it's okay for men to be violent towards their wives. Similarly, it is okay for adults to be violent towards children in the domestic space. And so we are now connecting all of this and saying that if we want homes free of violence, then any kind of violence is a no-no. We can't just say it is wrong to beat our wives, but then again, those women as mothers are beating children, or everyone is beating children, and it is considered perfectly normal. It's like people talk about it in normal conversation. And this again is across classes. So this is one of the things. But so we are, and during the 16 days campaign against gender violence, we talk about issues within the community. We do exercises with people in the community. So we are trying to bring the issue of domestic violence. It is public, but in many ways it is not public, because people will not side with the women, or people will say, it's between them and they'll sort it out. It's just one of, sometimes you feel very tired because you feel, we've been talking about this for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, but people are still saying the same things. But this discussion has to go on, and we feel, it's important, which is why it was very heartening to hear Gayatri ji talk about talking to college students, or, this is something we have to discuss all the time within communities, within schools, within colleges, because, it's good to, of course, we need a strong system of the law, with the criminal justice system has to be more active. But communities also, individuals all have to say that this is not something that is acceptable.
Yeah. And I think one thing that only helplines are not enough. Helplines are okay to report the case, but I think hand-holding is very important.
Yes,
And
yes,
it is the Shraddha Walkar case not is being reported because it also has a communal angle. But otherwise also in most of the cases reported where women are completely helpless, where they don't have anyone to turn to. I think that makes them more
communal
vulnerable.
angle
No?
also,
Yeah.
this is the way parents look. I mean, hello, am I? Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
you are audible. Yes.
so easy to turn your back on your daughter because she's not doing what you expect her to do.
Correct.
And
That's
that can't be. I mean,
important learning. Yeah.
Yes, and I mean, this is something we have always known, but this is a horrible case that has come up, and
Yes.
and
Yeah.
it's really, and I think everywhere. I mean, I think it's very important in schools and colleges to talk about this. It's not only that NGOs will go in and conduct sessions.
Correct.
But the teaching community should also be talking to their students because, I mean, it's really heartrending when you hear that women with PhDs kill themselves because their husbands are beaten.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for bringing out this role of community and also why everybody in the system, whether it's a law and order machinery, police, criminal justice system, and the community both have to take a very serious note of this and also responsive. They have to be responsive. That's very important.
Yes, we are also, training people in communities to respond for rapid response to cases.
Correct.
Because you can't always be depending on the NGO and their helpline and their workers. I mean, NGOs never have enough staff.
And the early signals, responding to early signals, no, not waiting till they commit suicide or they are killed, no. Because even in case of Radha, she had told the colleague, she had told the police, she had made FIR, but still not much action was taken. No? So that is there. So now, Dr. Tara Nair, I would like to ask about the findings of your research on intimate partner violence. And you are also now director of Aajeevika. So you work with the migrant workers and what kind of vulnerabilities you see among these women who come to the main megapolis and they come to the big cities. What kind of vulnerabilities do they face in the domestic arena? Dr. Tara Nair. Are you there?
Yeah. Am I audible now? Yeah.
Yes. Sorry. Only thing we are not able to see your face.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks so much for this this opportunity to be in the midst of stellar practitioners and lawyers. As you said, my experience is largely in terms of trying to understand how domestic violence or intimate partner violence can be addressed in what could be the major solutions, etc. And I must I think much of the analytical aspects about what perhaps causes domestic violence or why it still persists have already been discussed. But I must start by saying that perhaps one gets a feeling that the project to transform social norms and challenge patriarchy, that project is perhaps faced with much larger roadblocks than ever before in current times. And it's definitely hugely worrying to see the quantum, not only the quantum, even the degree of violence, the brutality involved in the kind of violence that women and girls across the country are facing in recent years. But if you look at the cases which attract media attention, we still discuss a very minuscule proportion of that in terms of as issues. Even there, the media has largely sensationalized the crime or the gruesomeness of the murder and things like that. But even the media has not really contributed enough in terms of diagnosing a case in terms of its legal, health, social that kind of a framework. But generally, it's a kind of a very sensational crime story. That's how it comes to be. I think there should be, I think before going anywhere, I thought we must do something very urgent about it, especially a large number of, regional language reporters and stringers and all work in, different states of India. I think there should be something like a capacity building program or something to make them more sensitive towards, those aspects of a case of gender violence rather than a sensational crime story. And it generally gets into the pages of crime reports rather than human rights violation or other kinds of issues. I think there should be something which we need to really do something very conscious and quite concerted there. Coming very quickly to my interest in IPV thing, I think the study that I have done was largely to find out how community solutions can be or what really even prevents community solutions to come to the fore. I know that there are a large number of exemplary work happening, from the side of civil society organizations, NGOs, women's collectives, and all that. But if you really look at the investment in collectives, we see a significant decline in investment in collectives. And, there was a lot of talk about all these things after 2012, especially after the Nirbhaya incident. I think there was some amount of hyperactivism in debates and, public debates. But it definitely died down. And if you look at the kind of resources spent on creating response structures across the states, we find nothing much is really happening. Nothing, that is even in terms of, one-stop centers or other kinds of investments. And I don't think we are really serious about some of those things. I'm talking about from the state's point of view. And, investing in collectors has been an extremely low priority in the state circles. One of the states that I very, very clearly follow is Kerala, partly because of my cultural affinity towards that state. I grew up there, part of women's movements. And I think it really shocks me with the complete disproportionate relationship between women's participation in economic activities, education levels, and the perpetration of violence against women. So it simply really defies any kind of connections between, or the indicators of empowerment that we really generally talk about. Nothing really works when patriarchy rules. Those kinds of realities we also recognized. And I think even in Kerala, the women component plan, since 2009 or so, the state plan says that about 10% of the plan funds should be given for women development initiatives. But the performance of that WCP has not been very encouraging at all. It's called
and like the recent spate of dowry murders, no? And also the dowry murders, Purnima Kodot's study of increased dowry murders.
Yeah. And I'm saying that there is a budget mechanism called Women Component Plan, which is not a small amount, which is 10% of the plan fund. Despite keeping that money aside, things are not really happening. So that's the point we need to take note of. And even this Women Component Plan in Kerala is almost like an orphan child. That's an expression that, generally we say, there is no incentive for greater expenditure or no disincentive for not spending or anything. So it is just a kind of a pot of money lying aside, not being spent wisely or properly, etc., etc. So, and any Panchayat Raj institution really know how to make use of this money and what should be done and things like that. So I think it's even a program like Kudumbashri, I think which economizes, empowerment and somehow has not been able to really very effectively address, an issue like, domestic violence or gender violence in general. So the I'm saying all these things because I believe that the state has a responsibility to respond to this, not leaving everything to an individual enterprise and civil society action. It's one of the most important responsibility of the state to actually deliver some significant things on these things. Even in Andhra Pradesh, I think if you look at the in 2014 when the state became bifurcated, Telangana and in Andhra Pradesh, the SCRP, also got the state rural kind of poverty eradication program also got bifurcated. In fact, since the time, women's collectives in the state actually went into serious trouble. They really did not have enough money to really carry out their activities, and maybe something is being spent on travel or something, but actually their core activities, the most relevant activities, are not really getting enough funding from from the government in the name of expenditure rationalization, etc., etc. It has actually been sort of, in fact, if I understand right, in Andhra Pradesh, there is no gender development department. It has actually been pushed to Telangana. So the state does not have a department to deal with, these kinds of issues. So budget constraints at the state level, underfunding of these kinds of activities, I think these very seriously impede continued functioning and sustainability of programs which really deal with violence kind of things.
Yeah, but even when the funding is there, I fully agree. I think you and Dr. Kirti also said that it is just like economizing empowerment is not enough because women across the class backgrounds, even those who are earning and who are economically independent also face varied form of domestic violence. And recent cases of dowry murders among the very women, highly educated women from a very affluent class, I think that also shows that how patriarchy and the patriarchal control over women's lives is so strong.
I think I need to really talk about one. Sorry, just one point that I want to really support, Anchita ji, when he talked, and I think it was also Dr. Kirti who mentioned that investing in men's collectives, or in involving men and boys in this, in this struggle, and understanding masculinity, while we are also talking about and how masculinities work. And there were several programs in the earlier days called Parivartan, where we were using sports and sports coaches to give the lesson of masculinity to young boys and all that, but none of them really received any kind of financial, sort of support for sustainably continuing their activities. Yeah, I think you were saying something.
I was just saying that even union budget, we have a Nirbhaya fund since 2013, 1,000 crore per year are allocated. Hardly 5 or 6 states have used them, and that to 40 to 50%. So even when you have a resources or the financial allocation made, money parked in the ministry, it is not used. So that itself shows the kind of either bureaucratic lethargy or the antipathy towards this. Because I remember when I went to Gender Resource Center, and the moment we talked about domestic violence, even IAS officer, I think principal secretary, he just snubbed me and saying that if we start providing support, women will start running away and families will break. If this is the kind of mindset, if the people in power have, what kind of alternative do we have? Even when, what kind of funds or functions or functionaries they are going to allocate? No? So that is a very important challenge that we are facing. The kind of gender sensitization programs we had during 80s and 90s, I think they have stopped. Whether it is in police academy or for the politicians, earlier they used to have it for the elected representatives at every level. I think they need to restart, but at least then their views will come out, about misogyny and insensitivity towards women's violence against women. So Advocate Celin Thomas, you have been practicing lawyer, and what have been your experiences so far as the issues concerning domestic violence linked to family laws also? Because every time women demand either a maintenance or any alimony or child custody, they also face tremendous domestic violence. So can you share some of the experiences of yours while dealing with the court cases? Yeah,
sure. Thank you, Dr. Patel, and thank you, IMPRI, for inviting me to this forum, and thank you to all the esteemed panelists who are present here. So I practice as a lawyer in Bangalore. Before I dive into the specifics of law or even deal with it, I'd rather share a case study. It is a case that I'm handling right now. It's a pro bono case. I will not be able to divulge in the name of the complainant. However, I'd like to give you a quick background of what it is. This is a girl who's only 19 years old. She's not an Indian, she's a Nepali. Now, let me explain you one thing, that in Bangalore, we have a sizable Nepali migrant population that has moved in here. They come here, they live in their own flocks and their own community, and they have their own social structure. And they have their own way of doing justice amongst themselves. So what happens is that most of the women and men do not reach out to the conventional legal systems or the law enforcement mechanisms which are in place for redressing any of their issues. So what happens is they have a sham of a Khap Panchayat that exists within their community that decides the fate of every person over there who decides to be a deviant, or so to speak, the community perceives that this person is a deviant. So the pro bono case that I'm working on is a Nepali girl, and she's only 19 years old, and she's considered to be this deviant in her community. Incidentally, a year ago, she used to work as a domestic help at my place, and she knew that I was a lawyer. And when she moved on to a better paying job, I congratulated her and I wished her well. And because she knew a little bit of English and she could speak the local dialect, which is Kannada, she found a job as a receptionist, which was a better paying job. But the abuse at her home was something I was completely oblivious to, because she never shared it with me. It was only recently that she reached out to me saying that there is a lot of abuse being meted out to her by her husband, who is currently 26 years old. So you can imagine the age difference between them. So I asked her when she got married, and she said 2 years ago. Now, 2 years ago, she was 17 years old. She was a minor as per our law. So she was not someone who was supposed to get married at that age, but it so happened that she has been betrayed by almost every person, not just her husband, but even her parents, her in-laws, every member in her community. It has so happened that, one fine day, her parents decided to cut her birthday cake, claiming to the entire society that it is her 18th birthday. This was 14th of September 2 years ago. And just 10 days later, they got her married. So it was almost like an eyewash, not only to the family members, but to the entire society, so that nobody questions the fact that she was actually a minor when they were getting her married. And they didn't want any social rebuke or anyone asking any kind of questions if at all the girl was a minor or not. They had stopped her education also abruptly, because probably she was turning out to be a financial burden for them. And they were a family, 2 elders and 4 children. And she turned out to be a liability for them. So they got her married. They got her married to a guy who is a bus driver in a private school. He had issues with her right from the second week of the marriage, wherein he used to keep calling her really bad words, like I don't want to disrespect anyone's sensibility, but they were real bad words, almost saying that she's into sex work and things like that, and she's having a relationship with here and there. But she's like any other teenager, having an online presence. She's very active on social media, especially Instagram, and she has absolute strangers following her. But then she is like any other teenage girl or a boy of her age who enjoys being on social media, because that's where they have friends, So her husband was, it's very clear to all of us that he is a very insecure man, and he couldn't handle the fact that, that she had friends online and that she had friends otherwise also. And the fact if she would be half an hour late at work and return home a little late, he would again accuse her of sex work. But he had no qualms in taking the money from her, whatever she was earning from all this work that she was doing. So it escalated to such an extent wherein it started affecting her health. And she reached out to me also at that point, and I said, what is it that she wants to do? So I actually tried to empower her at every stage that is possible, because she had to realize walking out of a marriage or walking out of her family home, the protection of her maternal home, or even the solace that she finds in her community, she will not get it outside. So it's a huge decision to step out, because you're not only getting out of your marriage, you are cutting all your bonds in your family, and even your friends and even your community. So for her, it was a huge step to take. So we were going back and forth for close to 6 months. It was only when she one fine day told her husband that, if you don't give me a divorce, I'll be left with no other choice but to go to the police. And she started to walk out of the house. That's when her husband held her and said that, no, let's try to make this work. Okay, if you want a divorce, I'll give you a divorce. The very next day, he circulates a morphed photo of her with another man. God knows from where he found that guy. And he morphed that photo and he circulated it to the entire community. And then they had to assemble this emergency based panchayat, and the head of the community, whom they address as Mukhia, he slapped her in front of everyone. The girl's parents also slapped her in front of everyone. Nobody was willing to hear her side of the story. You name it, that is the kind of violence that she was subjected to in the name of marriage: verbal, emotional, mental, financial, sexual, everything, physical violence, everything was meted out to her. She was trying to tell her story, but nobody was willing to listen to her. And then finally, she couldn't live with her husband, so she was staying at her mother's place. And they also said that, by tomorrow morning, 6:30, you should be gone. And one fine day, she just came out and she came to my doorstep. And this time she has no money, she has nothing in her hand. Even her mobile phone was destroyed by her husband because he didn't want her to talk to me or anybody else, seek out help or gain any kind of intercession from anyone outside the community. Now, when the matter came to this, wherein we had to take some action with respect to what has happened to her, the very first thing that I did was I took her to the Karnataka State Women's Commission. I registered a complaint there. They directed us to go to the jurisdictional police station, and we did that as well. It took us 3 days to get an FIR done. We had different levels of challenges. The police is not exactly friendly, and it's not exactly supportive to women, or should I say, at every stage they were hell-bent in trying to know what is the husband's phone number. And I was very reluctant in sharing that, because I said, unless and until you take a complaint, what's the point in giving you any kind of number? Because I know that police tends to do a lot of back channeling and backdoor dealings. And then again, the woman in distress continues to remain in distress, and there is no, no solution to her situation. But here the complication was that me being a lawyer is not enough, because this girl needed a place to live, food to eat, and even employment. She even needs the counseling support. So I had to reach out to a lot of my people in my resources who were here in Bangalore. So as a lawyer, you can fight the case, you can represent them before police station, you can go to State Women's Commission, you can do a lot of things. But there is a restriction to which even to what extent you can stretch yourself, because at times it does create a hole in your pocket, what happened to me was eventually I had to reach out to a shelter home wherein she could be kept for a few days before she could find an employment. And most of the shelter homes which are there in Bangalore, they are very cash strapped, and they find it very difficult to take in anybody without any kind of recommendation or some kind of an undertaking or even a formal FIR. So there were a lot of challenges that were there. To top it all, this girl also was 12 weeks pregnant. And she also needed medical attention, because it was not just the MTP procedure that she had chosen to undergo which required medical attention, but she also had other health issues which required medical attention. In addition to that, what we discovered was that she needed counseling support as well, because for her, she was isolated completely. She is a classic example of someone who is what we say, a rebel, and but she was classified not as a rebel but more as a deviant in her society. Everyone wanted to make an example out of her, which is why that sham of a Khap Panchayat was also held, so that she gets rebuked, she gets isolated, and every girl in the community, in their community, is forewarned that if you do something, this is what is going to happen to you. And it so happened that when I was looking for a job for her, the same members of the community, everyone had her photo. So a prospective employer, where I took her for an interview, to be taken in as an assistant to manage a boutique, that lady showed me the photo, that same morphed photo that her husband had circulated in the community. So it's not just in her community, but she's being sidelined even outside her community. So they are trying to completely destroy her. Now, what happened is when I kept her in the shelter home, I ensured that she was not accessible to anyone, because I primarily feared after what happened in that panchayat, in that assembly, she will be attacked in some or the other way, because the community is essentially very violent. Okay, and she's not the first person to walk out. There have been other girls who have escaped because they didn't want to get married, they wanted to study further. And in fact, these are the stories that I've heard from this girl itself. So when I kept her in safety, people knew that she was talking to me, you know. So her parents, her family, relatives, everyone has been calling out to me. And look at the statements that they make. One of her uncles said that wo hamari daulat hai, you know. So they have actually commodified her, you know. So they don't want to accept the fact that you know, that she deserves to be treated with dignity, she deserves to be treated with respect. I asked them questions, and why her parents isolated her, why they slapped her in front of the entire community when she's actually the victim. Then they are saying, okay, if she wants, she can teach a lesson to her husband, but tell her to spare her parents. But that's not how the law works. The moment in the complaint it reflects that she was a minor when she got married, automatically not only just DV applies, but also POCSO section 376 of IPC, which is rape, as well as Child Marriage Act, sections of those also get applied to the complaint. So what has happened is right now, you know, her husband is behind bars. There's a bail application pending. I'm appearing on behalf of the victim as well. Now, here's what I understand. You know, I had plenty of challenges. You know, it's not just the legal challenges, but also the fact that I shared that she needed support in terms of finding a job, finding a safe place to live, and also some kind of a mental and emotional anchorage. So what I understand is that it has to be a collective effort to help just one survivor of domestic violence. And to say that domestic violence happens, you know, only domestic violence happens. Well, in this case, I was under the impression it is only domestic violence, but it is only later when the complaint was being drafted, I realized that she's a minor. You know, when she was married, she was a minor. So many things came out, you know. So it's not always domestic abuse that happens. There are so many other things that happen parallelly. And, you know, for someone like her, belongs to a certain community, they come with their own ideas and preconceived notions, and they bring it to our country, and they force it upon their women. In fact, the bail application which is filed, in which the lawyer has blatantly written that people get married pretty early in the community. I mean, which court is going to accept that statement? You know, but they have written it. But it is not a customary practice. It is not a customary practice even in the Nepali community. That is something we have to understand.
Because Nepal also has very many progressive laws, and over the last 20 years, a lot has happened in Nepal also. So now I would like to, there is a very important learning from this particular case study that you have given. And I think that there are similar experiences. I think Dr. Tara Nair's study and all Dr. Kirti's experience of intervention is also showing. So now I would like to ask Advocate Gayatri Sharma that how in Delhi, Delhi has a special women's police. If we have a women's police, all women police station, does it make any difference in response of the system?
Okay, I can see Advocate Celin saying no, it doesn't. And I think what so I don't have much experience with the women police, but I do know that with women magistrates who deal with PWDVA cases, because it all goes to the magistrate court, and they're all women in the most of them. We cannot say that women will necessarily be more sensitive than men, because a lot has to do with the gender stereotypes and socialization that you're also brought up with. I think with the comments that have been coming even in chat that involvement of men and boys is necessary is something that I would agree with. And automatically just having a woman would not make them more sensitive. But just very briefly, from Delhi, a good practice that has come about is the Crime Against Women Cell. It has regular meetings with NGOs to discuss domestic violence cases. And prior to the pandemic, they they used to work, they would give the day for the meeting is tomorrow, you have to come tomorrow. Now they've started giving a longer period of time, notice for the NGOs to come. They listen to the NGOs as well for the cases, and they give help in particular cases where the NGO is stuck. So these regular meetings are working very well. And they are chaired either by a male or female officer. So I think that is a good practice in Delhi.
Just to add to what Gayatri is saying, Dr. Patel, women's police station is a great idea and a great concept. But what we need to understand is that where there is an all women's police station where there will be a woman constable or a woman police inspector, we need to understand she's first police and then a woman. So the treatment that will be meted out to any victim or any survivor of domestic violence or any woman who's suffering sexual assault, she's going to get the same treatment that she'll get to any other police station. That is something that we need to understand. So the only thing about a woman's police station is more of an eyewash. Okay. It is just to encourage women to go there. And in fact, even in the case that I shared, in that case study itself, we were in fact directed by the jurisdictional police station to go to the women's police station. And I said, is there, but the Women's Commission had asked us to come to the jurisdictional police station. Now, if we are going to the women's police station, then the order also has to come from them. And they had no answer to that. That's when they took in our FIR, So they do make us run from pillar to post. So having a all women's police station, there needs to be a mandate very clear, as it should benefit the survivor in some way.
I'd just like to add one thing, keeping in view my experience, that keeping in view the magnitude of the problem of the domestic violence, as per records itself, 1 in 3 are facing domestic violence, then every police station should be gender sensitive. We don't require, because even if we have to make women police stations also, we don't have that much of manpower now. And it needs to have a strategically, maybe it takes 10 years or 20 years to bring into 50% stage. So that's why every police station, we should see that it is in a position to receive the applications or complaints from the victims in a similar mode. That's very, very essential. So that empathy and gender sensitization should be the part of the curriculum of the police.
I would.
Thank you, Dr. Kirti. Yeah. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
I would like to flag 2 things coming from the, I'm so privileged today, Vibhuti ma'am, that I'm listening to the grassroots people and who are really working. What I'm understanding is, also we're talking about the police station and things like that. But we have to understand that the appearance of the survivor, is made to be very, very judgmental. In the sense that, I've got this case study where, for example, just a minute. Okay, here they say that, that when they go to the police, it is how she's dressed, how she looks. Does she look damsel in distress? Does she have that kind of, appearance where we can believe that actually she was, violated? The judgmental aspect of it, and it goes into the most gender sensitive people, because why I'm saying is this, because the patriarchal, imaging and the willing to be accepted in that mold of patriarchy is so strong among all of us. I mean, let us confess this today. It is so strong that how we dress, what we eat, where we go out, what we see, what we read, or, everything, and we need acceptance from the patriarchal mold, So the structures are so strong, it's very difficult. So at least, as I requested, forget calling them victims, and also the appearances of it. You know, let's not be judgmental, and let's not just say, oh, she was wearing this dress. Oh, you know, she's talking to me eye to eye, you know. So if she has so much confidence level, how can she be how can she survive in so all the paradigms need to, be shackled and broken up, over a period of time. And I think our grassroots, the workers, the lawyers, I mean, hats off to you all. You are really doing a great work in breaking these kind of paradigms. Thank you very much.
Time and again, and this has been right from the beginning. Any woman who is articulate, confident, who argues, provides evidences, police would just not trust her, that she doesn't fit into their image of a victim, no? And so many times they say that if I had such woman as my wife, I would have also beaten her. That's what one has heard even from the police officers. No? So it's a very, very, I think creating an accountability system is a major challenge. There are 3 responses in the chat box. One is by Anima. Would you like to unmute and speak? Because you have written about your personal views, and you are talking about, I think you are reiterating the point that we should work with men and boys. But would you like to make any statements? Anima, are you there? Dr. Suna, you have also said that your experiences of Tamil Nadu, where you say that all women police station make miracles to happen. Would you like to share some of your first-hand experiences? And there is a Satyavati who has also said that we are from Bhumika Women's Collective. You can share your experiences also, Satyavati. Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and yeah, okay.
Anima ji,
so Satyavati, Suna, and Anima. Would you like?
Hello, I'm
Yes?
Anima.
Yes, Anima. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Actually, the thing is like there are so many case studies. If you open the newspaper every day, there's one or the other case. And if you just take the statistics, then you will find that in the past few years, the crime against women has risen tremendously. These crimes are sometimes direct, sometimes indirect, sometimes those are like psychological, hidden, and in every way. And it is not only in India but everywhere. You go, take any example, it is happening everywhere, and irrespective of any religion or community or race or ethnicity, the crimes are happening, and these are rising. It's a fact. I've been to Africa too, and there I found like women are treated very badly, even not only their own women but the women who work there from outside, they are equally treated bad. So I have come through my experiences, I have learned that we should engage men into our programs, and there's one global program proposed by UN, engaging men. Engaging men is like if a man says something to the boys or to the adolescent children something, then it makes more sense. If I speak and if a woman speaks, then it is not taken seriously. So my emphasis is that this is high time that we should review our all the policies, we should review our all the advocacies and find out the flaws, because the thing is not making any difference. Even in America, from where the movement started in 1970s, even there the status of women has hardly changed. So I think this is high time we should review all the programs and these all rights made for the women and all, and engage men.
Yeah, that's very important. Your point of engaging men is, I think, very important. There, and thank you, Animaji. Now, I request Satyavati ji and Dr. Suna. Would you like to share your experiences, Dr. Sunanda?
Good evening.
Dr. Sunanda, yes, good.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Sunanda. I was a police officer. That's why I'm talking about the women police station in Tamil Nadu. Actually, the women police are given special training on this gender sensitization, as well as the how to work in a women police station. Of course, it is not, we can't say that it is all the women police stations are functioning in the way in which it is supposed to. There will be flaws also, but then most of the cases get, the problems get redressed. Either they will register a case first, they will do the counseling, and then they will have a panel of psychiatrist or a psychologist, an advocate, a counselor, family counselor, and we will have 10 types of, even retired judges are included in that. This is known as Family Counseling Center. This center will function in each all-women police station, and they will take a decision according to the gravity or according to the configuration of the case. Later, they will decide if they are, through counseling, if they could bring the family, reunite, then that will be taken care of in that way. They will be called for reviews, weekly review, then monthly review, then once in a while they come and tell how do they live. Otherwise, after some time, they will approach the police station again for the next action, course of action. The police station then will register a case after getting opinion from the APP. This is what is happening in Tamil Nadu, all women police stations.
Yeah. And what is the budgetary allocation for this? What kind of support services all women police station, over and above counseling, other intervention, are they connected with the hospital and for the medical aid and for the shelter home? So is it more of a one-stop center?
We give a letter to any of these institutions if then there is a need. Then they will take it. We will contact the social development, SD, they call it. Social
Development Office.
Development Office, yes. That is, they will be placed in the collectorate, no? We will inform them, they will take care of it.
Yeah, because even for that Cradle Baby scheme, collectorate was the center, no? Even when Tamil Nadu had that scheme.
Yes.
It's a very, very important, very inspiring, I think, in this whole grim reality, that the kind of but you need a lot of commitment, no, on the part of people with authority and power. So do you have gender sensitization programs also?
Yes, please. Yes, we used to have.
And
we had, we have family counseling members also. When I was in Chennai, there twice a week, 2 counselors from any of the NGOs will be asked to come and counsel the victims.
So the state and non-state NGOs and GOs, they work together in tandem. So then you are effective.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Sunanda. It's a very inspiring, your experiences.
May I ask one question to Dr. Sunanda? Like, I was wondering, where is the survivor rehabilitated if it comes to that? Or generally, what is the police station, the police officers do? Do they counsel her to go back to the home where the abuse happened? Or, what do they do?
Yes. Only after counseling, if we feel that it is fit, we will be sending them. I had a very bad experience once. We did the counseling. We send the girl back to the family, the groom's family. That is after the assent of both the parent and the in-laws. But then after some time, she was found in the railway track, dead. So we take much care about that. After we get the consensus of the counselors who come from the NGOs. In Chennai, that is a practice. All women police station will have one or other NGO coming and giving counseling for these victims.
Yes,
after the preliminary investigation by the
emphasis in government programs to attempt a reconciliation, and that doesn't always work to the advantage of the survivor.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sunanda. And
I think one thing we are missing out here is which was slightly touched upon by Anchita Ghatak, was that this whole mother beating the children kind of thing. But another thing which is very, very pertinent also is, and also I see it very much in Manipur and Northeast particularly, is the violence meted on the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, very.
Yeah, so and that also has to come in the premise.
Yes, domestic violence, correct. And by their own parents, because now they have started a center for LGBTQIA community where they are violated by their natal family, by their own parents, brothers, sisters, and all. So that's very important. Yes. There is Satyavati Kondavneji, who is from Bhumika Women's Collective, and she has written in the chat box. Would you like to share your experiences? Satyavati ji, are you there? Hello. Satyavati ji, are you there? Then Dr. Vijay has also written in the chat box. Would you like to speak, Dr. Vijay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for such a wonderful session. It was actually an eye-opener to me that even that kind of system exists, especially in the Nepali community case, which ma'am was discussing. I think from my own experiences, what I have felt in the university system and all, I think the education about gender sensitization should start in the family. Especially the father and the mother both should be educated in such a way and sensitized in such a way that the male child should be sensitized at a very young age, so that it sits in their mind, and when they grow up, that they should treat female counterpart as equal to them, even in the case of family responsibilities, household chorus, everything. Because if we started in the family at a young age, then I think it will stay with them when they become adult. Otherwise, if they try to put that thing in their mind when they are adult, then it may not be that much useful, because they have been seasoned already in the family that they are superior. And somehow I have seen that children's birthday, when they celebrate only the birthday of male child. They don't celebrate the birthday of female child. And it was very surprising to me to see those kind of systems existing even today in the societies and families. So I think that should be taken care of right from the very young age. We need to feed this into the mind of young children.
And I think the National Education Policy 2021 also says gender sensitization has to begin from preschool level, no? Then only the mindset will change. We have, thank you. We have Professor Asha Gala. Asha Gala, you are speaking, you have written about emotional violence. Would you like to speak? Please unmute yourself and speak. And after that, we have two more who have raised hands. Yeah. Satyavati ji. Dr. Asha Gala, are you there? Then Satyavati ji, you have raised hand. Please unmute yourself and speak.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Vibhuti ji. The very good program I am hearing from the beginning. So I want to share with you all that Bhumika Women's Collective is working in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Our main work is on gender-based violence. So we work with the police very closely. We give trainings to them. We work with the WCD, DLSA, and in judiciary also. We organize trainings to judges also on gender training, gender sensitization. So regarding this women police stations and the police attitudes, we are running nearly 9 centers in police stations in AP and Telangana. So our experience is our presence will made a impact on police. Definitely the survivor will come to our centers first, then they will go to police. So we connect them to all support systems available to Sakhi Center. We are also running 2 Sakhi centers in Telangana, in 2 districts. In Telangana, the Sakhi centers are managed by NGOs. Maybe I don't know in other states. So regarding these police stations and the police helpline, police attitudes, we must work with police. It is a very important to work with police, because whenever a woman faces any violence, she will be 100% reaching the police station. They are coming to one-stop centers, or we call it Sakhi centers.
Yeah, like your one-stop centers are community-based, no? Not hospital-based.
No, not hospital-based. We have our own buildings.
Yeah.
We have our own buildings, and we established in that every district is having a one-stop center, and we call it in Telugu Sakhi Center. It's a friendly.
Telugu Sakhi Center. Okay.
Yeah, Sakhi Center.
Just to add to what Satyavati ji is saying, Dr. Patel, we also have Sakhi centers in Karnataka.
Yes.
Right now, they are known as Nirbhaya Sakhi Center. In that, there are counselors provided. There are social workers, case workers also. There is a doctor who is constantly there on call, and if there is a rape case or any sexual assault case, then they are asked to go to the registered government hospital, wherein there will be a panel of OBGYN and trained nurses who can administer the MLC. And it is also located to the nearest women's police station, and each district has got one such center, wherein usually there are empaneled lawyers as well. They are legal aid lawyers, and there are also systems like under the DV Act itself, we have protection officers. So one empaneled protection officer is also present there. Now over there, though in a huge city like Bangalore, you have several jurisdictions, you have different police stations, still a survivor of sexual assault or even domestic violence, a woman can go there to this Nirbhaya Sakhi Center, and she can it is like a one-stop shop, wherein you get all kinds of help and support there, even shelter for certain women who are in
I want to explain about what is happening in Telangana.
Yeah.
Telangana, we are having support centers. What you said is correct. So we have 2 counselors. Emergency vehicle is there 24 hours. 24 hours available, and 181 is the toll-free number.
Yeah.
Whenever
that is national. All over India, no?
Yeah, all over India, and it linked to Sakhi centers.
Yes.
So Bhumika Women's Collective is also having a helpline since 2006. It is also a toll-free number and 24 hours.
Correct.
So that is why I want to share my experience with police. That's why I came into this.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, very important. Now there is a Lay Krasman. Would you like to speak? You have raised hand, ma'am. Ma'am Lay. Then Professor Asha Gala, would you like to speak? You have also raised hand.
Yeah, yes. Am
Please
I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Vibhuti, for inviting, and it has been every time very enlightening and little assuring also. Like, okay, I think for number of personal experiences in the community, family nearby, honestly, I feel there is a greater and greater need to speak up. Like we maybe coming from this background or ideology, we do speak up at the conferences, seminars, but in a day-to-day life, like, okay, when a woman starts saying that it's all right, when we're sitting in like, okay, in the family gatherings and somebody says, okay, I was beaten up, or my husband said. Second is very subtle type of abuses. It could be heavily like taunting, or degrading the woman all the time, abusing in a sense, okay, you're good for nothing. Those type of violences, I think there is a lesser emphasis on that, but that can be very harmful to the women.
Yeah.
And more so for the educated women as such, support system, who will support? I think in the most prosperous communities also, like I belong to Kutchi community, where there are crores of rupees being spent for number of noble causes and good work being done, but nothing absolutely about issues like domestic violence. And where will you get the physical support? Like, where will a woman go? And if the parents do not, like, that's a very, very important aspect. And I'm glad that many of the resource persons have touched upon it. Yeah. all the best from my side. If I could be of any, I don't know, I don't want to say help, but in any way associated with any of the initiatives that each one of you are doing, I would be more than happy to be part of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ashaji. There is a lay. Are you still there, Trustman? And there is a question in the question box by Bhumi Yadav to Dr. Vijaylakshmi Brara. Would you like to answer that question? That in the Northeast, women are more liberated and it's a women-dominated society. If that is the kind of impression rest of the India has, and daughters have right to inheritance of property, how do you explain violence against domestic violence? Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Vijaylakshmi ji?
Yes, yes.
I
was taking time unmuting myself. Yeah, this is the problem. This is exactly the problem, the women of Northeast face. This whole gamut of, visibility of women on the street, visibility of women, during the conflict, and the visibility of, for example, in Manipur, we have very strong women's organization called, Mera Pai, women, and then we have Mera, and then we have, the whole history of the colonial history of Manipur is actually women's history. I think that's the only state you can say that there is her story, not his story. Okay, so we have those kind of very proud, matrix structures, so to say, in Manipur. So much also Mahila Samitis in Assam, and then of course because of Christianity, the women came forward and they became part of the Christian women's associations in Mizoram and all that. So along with that, don't forget that Northeast has been a conflict area for 70 years now, and now things are becoming what you call normalizing, and the more peace and all that, but it is only now. So the women in Northeast have been on the streets trying to protect their sons and their husbands from the conflict. Let me not go into the blame game, with conflict with the state forces, the non-state and the state forces. And so their agenda has not been feminism. Their agenda has not been looking within. Their agenda has not been critiquing their society, because, just like any other indigenous feminist movement, they are embroiled in the fact that if they critique, they become anti-national. So therefore, that's why when I said in the beginning that we have this myth about women's high status of women in Northeast is because there's visibility. We don't have feticide. We don't have infanticide. We don't have wills, and there are women who are in economic sphere. We have all women's market called Patel. So they are handling the economy, but at what level? In the sense that they still belong to the level of survivals, in the sense that there was a time, in the history of women's market, there was a time when the king's, mother used to sit, even as late as chief minister, their wives used to sit. Okay, so it was more of a socio-economic kind of interaction, kind of space, and also slowly, and it had a history of political ideology space where this women's collective fought against the British. Okay, so they had that kind of. Now, when you go into the profile of women in women's market in Imaketel, more than half of them are all single women, and because either their husbands have died in the conflict, or they have got drunk and died. So they are there.
Women-headed households are in
out of compulsion, not really, that okay, let's go spend time, like leisure time. It's no more like that. And so therefore, we have a very famous economist called Devaki Jain. She said, in fact, the visibility of women on the street, it is an indicator of the the deprivation of the society rather than, empowerment of the society per se. So we should not go into that kind of, paradigm into believing that women's, even in the matrilineal, as Madam Vibhuti talked about, even in the matrilineal, I'm sorry if I'm taking more time, because this myth has to be broken, ma'am. In the matrilineal system in Khasi society, it is matrilineage.
Not
it's only lineage, okay, from mother to daughter to daughter. But in the political sphere, which is called Darbar Snong, women are not allowed to enter into that physical space, leave alone the ideological and any other viewpoint. So, and also the role of, in the matrilineal system, it is the mother's brother who takes over the role of father. So ultimately, it is a man. It is not really empowerment, and matrilineage has no indication with the empowerment of women. Only thing is that because of these spaces, Ima Kethil, Mera Paibi, then even matrilineages,
Mothers Association,
these kind of, they give us a little higher baseline. That is, I can agree. That gives a higher state baseline, because we already have collectivities. We have collective women. So, but only thing is the direction has to change into the fact that, rather than being organizations only of women, they need to become organization for women. But I think it is their agenda, it is their perspective. We are nobody to patronize them. So they will come where, over, they have been struggling with conflict. Probably now, like Naga Mothers Association has started doing it. They fought against their menfolk into the fact that they have a right to stand for elections in municipal councils, and Supreme Court also
Panchayati Raj Act, implementation.
In the municipal act, ma'am, in municipal act. So similarly, Arunachal, there are a lot of movements now critiquing within, as I talked to you about this whole polygamy and all this thing. Mizoram also, they're fighting against bride price. They don't want a bride price. So the things
equally cruel like dowry, correct?
Then let us not go into the fact that Northeast women have high status.
So I think that the patriarchal control is very much there even in the matrilineage, no? So that comes out very clearly from your this thing. So instead of a husband or a father-in-law, you have a brother, mama, who is controlling the decisions. But it's a very important dimensions that have come up, and now all 5-6 of you are going to get your wrap-up round. But before that, I would like a word of appreciation from Jitendra Alok Prasad Prajapati, who is a research scholar, and he has said he has found this session extremely important, and he got a lot of messages and guidance from this. So that's a one pleasant note with which it has ended. But now all of you have your closing remarks and the pathways for future. So we can start with Dr. Kirti.
Yeah, with regard to the domestic violence, when we are talking about the challenges and responses, one of the gray area not touched till now is maintenance of the woman in marital discard. During the pandemic, nobody got maintenance for 2 years. Yes, we have done a pan-India study and getting the information from under RTI from the different courts in India also. So the main recommendation is to bring a change in the section 125 of CRPC, which tells that if the husband don't give the money, then he can, after 12 months, the woman can go to the again court, and the judge can offer whether to go to the jail or to pay the money. So most of the men are going to jail, not paying the money. So the basic right of the woman of living is foregoing, which is the fundamental right of the woman. That is one thing. And also there is no, we have to create a national registry of domestic abusers and offenders in India, which is not in India. And also we have to streamline of alumni or interim maintenance and final settlement of the procedure. And also the monitoring system to track the maintenance case should be created by police department at each police unit. And think out of box solution is a fund to be created by Government of India to support women fighting the maintenance cases, because It is not going in the time-bound nature, and it's going years together, and women are missing it. And one more new initiative which we have taken up, which we all can see it in the Play Store, is we have designed an tech tool that is evidence wallet for women. That is, I'm just keeping in the chat box also, that is available in the Play Store. That is going to address, because 92 to 93% of the women going to the courts are unable to produce their evidences, although they have smartphones and they are recording the voices. So that's why this is going to be a cloud space for the women with all confidentiality, that they can have a password. At a primary level, we did it, and we are going with a most robust one with a facial recognition also, once we have some more funding and all those things. So here I would like to thank everyone that the initiatives and challenges are there, but we all have to work with much more patience, much more innovation, and to make the political agenda for the next elections is how do we make the women to be more dignity and respect. The politicians will see it. There I will conclude, and thank you so much for Vibhuti and everyone making me to be a part of it. Thank you so much.
Yes. Dr. Tara Nair, what will be your final words? Yeah.
No, I have very little say. One thing I would say that, I still believe that we need to reinvent the transformative potential of many of these initiatives that you're talking about. Some of them, I think, have really been transformed into very transactional sort of models and pedagogies and all that. So I think we need to really get back that, a very feminist reflexive dialogue, and, women should be made to critically reflect on their objective life situations, not a kind of a response after an event happens would not be a lot of energies are spent there, but I think we need to really proactively do something. I also think that men's perspective about violence and violence against women must be really worked on with much greater sort of
seriousness.
And I, of course, many of us said that I really do not personally think that only legal and procedural reforms would make any long-lasting, sustainable change in this, in this particular phenomenon. Women in India, it's very clear that they are not receiving any social support. This is despite the fact that they choose partners of their family's choice, and they, from their own caste and community, or all that is done, and their bodies become, their bodies bear the burden of representing or reproducing caste and community and privilege and all that. So they are just seen as those bodies which, recreates and reproduces that kind of, caste and community privilege system, unless and until we do something very drastic to, create a social transformation around changing these kinds of notions. I think we are definitely not going to be very far. Thank you so much. I'm extremely sorry for that.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Dr. Celin, Advocate Celin, what are your concluding remarks?
I do, there is one thought process that has been resonating again and again from the participants as well as from the panelists. It is about the patriarchal system. See, patriarchy, according to me, it does not just proliferate and exist only because men want it. But certain women are benefiting from it, and therefore they quietly support it. So what I'd like to say over here in the context of this background, there are few challenges which I believe that it's not just for an advocate to address, but this invariably comes to an advocate because the survivor has approached the advocate for redressal. So I would just like to read them out. Leaving and abusing of a husband is not a simple matter for most of the women. Who will financially support me is the first question they ask. Who will financially support my kids, especially their education? support with respect to simple things like bank related matter. I know qualified engineers and qualified doctors who do not know what is happening with their bank account. Okay, so a lack of confidence in doing anything on their own. Now here it is not just because they have given everything to their husband, it is also because these women, whether they are qualified or not, literate or not, whatever it is, they've been brought up that way. The institution in which they were raised, their parents, they have brought them that way, which is kind of disabling them on various levels, disabling them to take strong financial decisions on their own, disabling them from taking any decision with respect to, I'm not going to support, I'm not going to take any more abuse anymore. So the self-esteem, the self-respect and sense of self-worth, none of these are inculcated in any of these women, because they are suffering challenges on those levels as well when they approach a lawyer. Also, in addition to that, the emotional anchorage is sought from a lawyer. A lot of these women in distress, when they approach a lawyer, they heavily lean on their lawyer for all these things. A lot of them are unwilling to go and get professional help in terms of getting counseling or any other kind of mental or emotional support from a qualified professional. So I guess some amount of awareness needs to be created from that perspective as well. A lot of women, when they approach, when their matter is already taken by the police, and FIR has been lodged, there is a case, there's a criminal case in court, and also if they are seeking maintenance and have filed several cases under Domestic Violence Act, family court and all those things, they are usually very short-sighted. They're constantly worried about how much we're going to pay, while the husband, he is willing to drop an entire arsenal on top of their head with respect to going through using every legal machinery that is available in place to ensure that the woman cannot fight anymore. So I guess these are the challenges that I am dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Some of them I do find answers to, but a lot of them I think they need to be addressed. And if it's possible to be addressed through community-based organization by creating awareness, then nothing like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Advocate Singh. Now, another lawyer, Advocate Gayatri Sharma. What are your final words?
So I'm going to go completely the non-legal way. For me, I think for a long time we've been discussing dowry, beating of the physical forms of domestic violence of married women, child care. But the Shraddha Walker case really opened my eyes to domestic violence against women who are in intimate relationships and domestic violence within the natal family. And the reason why I'm saying it's moving away from the law is because it's not easy to use the law against your parents. And even the CJI said very recently that hundreds of people are killed every year in India because they choose to exercise who they want to marry, and parents don't agree with that choice.
Crimes
How can we bring awareness that the natal family is also a perpetrator of violence? How do we bring about that awareness? I think the solution is not really legal. There has to one component would be the law, but more than that, working with the youth, working with young people, making sure that they don't lack the courage in saying that this is wrong and I will not tolerate this.
And also support each other, because they have seen that wherever, even in intercaste, interreligious marriages, where there has been support, then they have been able to survive. No, so Absolutely. That is very important. Only when they are isolated, then the Khap Panchayat or parents or this, they do the custodial killing. Yeah, very important. Yes. And now, Dr. Vijaylakshmi Brara, your final words. Yeah. Please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I said, that the terminologies have to change from victim to survivor. Then appearances need to be, not judged. In the sense, why should we that the doctors and all notice on the fact that what she was wearing and how she looks and whether she can speak or she's subdued, so when you're subdued, so you fall into the whole matrix of patriarchy where it says, okay, this girl can be abused, but if you can't speak that this girl can't be abused, that kind of judgmental, thing has to go. And that can only go when we have structural changes. I know it is a very, very ideological academic way of saying it. I accept that fact, but then we have no choice. We have no choice in the sense structure, the patriarchal structure needs to, if it cannot change, it needs to dilute. I know it cannot change. It's a centuries old aata, but somewhere, we have to puncture the balloon, and we are so that is because the willingness to affirm to this whole power equation is so strong that even an educated person like me would be like to be called, oh, she's a good wife, she doesn't, any woman, like for example, sometimes say, oh, when I go there, okay, go there, but don't talk that much, okay, even to me, at this age, I have been patronized. I am patronized by people into saying that zyada baat mat karna, don't be so political, so this. So imagine young budding, women, learning, what will be their condition? So that patriarchal bubble has to be bursted.
Very important.
And that goes, across regions, across countries, be it Northeast, be it Africa, be it Rajasthan, be it anywhere. It is a war, because you see, I mean, what is happening in Iran? The whole movement against it. What is happening in America? I mean, the law which says that you cannot abort. Where are we heading to? Where are we heading to today?
So globally, we see this kind of a wave.
Domestic violence coming.
Backlash, the backlash that we are facing.
Repression. So we have a long way to go. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Thank you all the panelists. You have made an extremely important statement, and what emerged from today's discussion is that while there are one aspect which is left out is that while serious health consequences of domestic violence for women are well researched and established, the role of public health system in responding to the issues that are not received adequate attention. And in case of domestic violence, it is imperative to document both the recent episodes of violence as well as the women's history of violence, because such documentation is critical in case of having access to justice. And most often women decide to seek legal action only after violence has escalated, but there are no documentary evidence to prove that. And there is a need for an affirmative action to protect girls, women, young women, and elderly women from domestic violence and establish human rights for them, for which what we need is, one, improve women's economic capabilities. I think it came very clearly from the study of Dr. Tara Nair. Strengthen and expand training and sensitization program, Advocate Gayatri Sharma, she emphasized that. The Dilasa model of one-stop crisis center, different states have a different. Dilasa is a hospital-based one-stop crisis center for the survivor of violence, so that she doesn't have to run from pillar to post, from criminal justice system to shelter home to for counseling or for child care. So all services are converged to this casualty ward of the hospital, while in Andhra Pradesh they have a community-based one-stop crisis center. Effective use of media to build public awareness is extremely important, to have a campaign of zero tolerance to violence, and that it should be done with an interdisciplinary perspective where the mental health, physical health, and the dignity and well-being are emphasized. Programs to design for the batterers. I think there are many countries who have done that. South Africa has done it. Several Asian countries like Malaysia, Philippines, they have also had program for the batterer, that how the anger management, that is the work some NGOs are also doing. And addressing domestic violence through education, I think that was also emphasized, that this kind of education about women's dignity or the respectful relationship between different genders has to be taught at a very early age. So prevention of domestic violence ultimately depends upon changing the norms of society regarding violence as a means of conflict resolution, and the traditional attitude about gender. So to achieve this, there must be introduction of gender and human rights in curricula of schools, universities, professional colleges, workers' education program, and also the teachers training colleges. So along with this, there must be recognition and commitment to the principles of free and compulsory and primary and secondary education for girls and boys, so that they know about their rights, and also some of the customs, like most of the studies have shown that in cases of child marriages, violence is very high and they are totally powerless. So I think that some of the campaign against child marriage is also equally important. So I think the kind of approach which Women Power Connect has taken, that it is not seeing domestic violence in isolation, and all of you have also emphasized that. So thank you very much. And now I request Zubia for the conclusion of the program.
Thank you, ma'am. As we come to the end of this extremely enlightening discussion, I, Zubia, researcher at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, New Delhi, would like to formally propose a vote of thanks on behalf of the IMPRI Gender Impact Studies Center. We'd like to express our gratitude to the panelists for today's session: Advocate Gayatri Sharma, Professor Vijaylakshmi Brara, Dr. Tara Nair, Advocate Celin Thomas, Dr. Kirti Bolineni, and Anchita Ghatak ma'am, for taking out their precious time to share their views, adding their diverse perspectives and valuable insights to the deliberation on the important topic. We are grateful to Professor Vibhuti Patel for chairing and leading the talk. And of course, we thank all our participants here on Zoom or on Facebook Live for participating and raising pertinent questions. We are grateful if you are watching us later on YouTube or listening to us on our various podcasts or reading our publications. I hope that you continue to tune in future to our State of Gender Equality, #GenderGap series, and IMPRI Web Policy Talks. Thank you once again, and I wish you all a very good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.